Have you ever seen a child who tries her best to smile, just so the world doesn't see how broken she really is? This story begins with exactly such a child, the little black girl named Oriana, a girl whose eyes carried more pain than her age could ever explain. Oriana was only 10 when her mother passed away. She didn't fully understand death, but she understood the silence it left behind. A silence that filled the house, the rooms, the walls, and her own heart. Her father, Mark, did love her, no doubt. But after losing his wife, he became a quiet man. A man who worked longer hours, a man who came home late, tired, overwhelmed, a man who thought that providing money was the same as providing comfort. He didn't notice his little girl slowly fading. Months passed, and Mark remarried. Her name was Liza. She was smart, confident, elegant, everything a man might want. She came with a warm smile and soft hands, at least in front of Mark. Oriana hoped that maybe, just maybe, she would finally have someone to care for her the way her mother once did. But some hopes are fragile, and some people are experts at breaking them. The first few days were normal. Liza acted nice, polite, almost motherly. She gave Oriana gifts, cooked meals, and pretended to care. But the moment Mark went to work, her tone changed. Her face changed. Her treatment changed. And that was the beginning of Oriana's silent suffering. One morning, Mark left for work early. As the door shut, Liza's smile evaporated. She looked at Oriana with cold eyes and said softly, "Get up. You have chores." Oriana didn't argue. She had always been a quiet child. She cleaned the kitchen, washed dishes, folded laundry, all while Liza sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. But even that wasn't enough. Liza criticized every movement. "Do it right. Are you stupid? Didn't your real mother teach you anything?" Those words felt like knives, but Oriana swallowed them silently. Because if she cried, Liza said she was dramatic. And if she spoke, Liza said she was disrespectful. So she preferred silence. Every day became a repeat of the last. Mark would leave. Liza would turn into a different person, and Oriana would shrink a little more each time. But she never told her father, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't want him to be sad again. She had already seen him lose someone he loved. She didn't want to be a burden. So she kept everything locked inside her small, fragile heart. One afternoon, while cleaning the dining room table, Oriana accidentally dropped a glass. It shattered on the floor. Liza rushed in, furious. "Look what you did. Do you have any idea how expensive that was?" Oriana trembled. I'm sorry. It slipped." Before she could finish, Liza leaned closer and whispered, "You're useless. Completely useless. No wonder your mother left you behind." It was a cruel lie, a lie meant to break a child. And it worked. Tears slipped down Oriana's face as she knelt to pick up the glass, cutting her small finger. Blood formed, but she didn't cry out. She pressed her lips together. She didn't want Liza to see her pain. She didn't want her to win. That night, Oriana hid her injured finger from her father. She wrapped it in tissue and tucked her hand behind her back. She told him she was fine. Mark believed her, because he wanted to believe everything was okay. The truth was, he had no idea how quickly his daughter was slipping away from him. Weeks passed, and something strange began to happen. Oriana stopped laughing, stopped playing, stopped dreaming. She became quieter, thinner, paler. She barely ate, always waiting for Liza to serve harsher words than food. Still, she stayed silent. Until one day, everything changed. It was a Sunday morning. Liza was angry because the laundry wasn't folded perfectly. She grabbed the clothes out of Oriana's hands and threw them on the floor. "What is wrong with you? Are you incapable of doing anything right?" Oriana blinked fast, trying to stop her tears. I try my best." Liza smirked. "Your best is never good enough. Girls like you don't deserve comfort. You don't deserve kindness." Oriana's voice cracked as she whispered, "Why do you hate me?" Liza laughed out a cold, heartless laugh. "Because every time I see you, I remember your mother. And I hate being compared to a dead woman." That was the moment something inside Oriana broke completely. Her shoulders drooped. Her gaze fell. Her hope extinguished. She didn't know someone else had heard every word. Because for the first time in months, Mark had forgotten his wallet at home and came back quietly to get it. And standing behind the half-open door, he froze. He saw his daughter trembling, that he saw her pain, that he saw the truth he had been blind to. And worse, he heard the woman he trusted tearing down his child. His heart stopped, his breath caught, his entire world collapsed in seconds. He stepped back silently, shocked, shattered, and for the first time in a long time, he saw his daughter, truly saw her. He didn't confront Liza immediately, but something in his expression had changed forever. That moment marked the beginning of a storm that would expose every hidden truth, a storm that would decide the fate of everyone in that house. Oriana didn't know it yet, but her father had heard everything, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. Mark left the doorway with trembling hands. His heart felt heavy, as if someone had placed a stone on his chest. He couldn't understand how he had missed it, how he had failed to see the pain in his daughter's eyes. As he sat in his car, he replayed every small moment from the past few months. Oriana hiding her hands behind her back, saying she wasn't hungry, forcing a smile whenever he came home late. How could he not notice? How could a father be so blind? But the truth is, sometimes adults get so caught up in their struggles that they forget a child's silence is never empty, it's always filled with something. That morning, Mark didn't go to work. Instead, he drove aimlessly, trying to calm the storm inside him. He wasn't ready to confront Liza yet. He needed to think, to understand, to plan. Meanwhile, at home, Oriana continued her chores. She moved slowly but carefully, afraid that any mistake would trigger another explosion from Liza. Her heart felt fragile, but she still hoped that maybe, just maybe, her father would come home early and smile at her the way he used to. Hours passed. Liza remained in her room, leaving her stepdaughter to work in silence. But that silence wasn't peaceful. It felt suffocating. By afternoon, something unexpected happened. Oriana felt dizzy while cleaning. Her vision blurred. She swayed slightly, holding onto a chair for support. Her small body couldn't handle the stress anymore. The skipped meals, the emotional attacks, the exhausting chores. A child has limits, and she had reached hers. She sat on the floor, head resting on her knees, trying to breathe normally. She didn't want Liza to see her like that, weak, broken, but she couldn't move. Just then, the front door opened. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Slow, heavy footsteps. Oriana quickly wiped her face, thinking her father had returned. But when she looked up, it was Liza staring at her with annoyance. "What now?" Liza snapped. "Crying again? Do you want pity? Because you're not getting any." Oriana whispered, I just feel a little sick." Liza rolled her eyes. "You're doing this on purpose. If you're tired, it's your own fault. Finish cleaning the living room. And after that, scrub the floor." Oriana didn't argue. She forced herself to stand, though her legs trembled. She picked up the broom and tried again and again and again, until suddenly the broom slipped from her hands. Her body gave up, and she fainted, collapsing right there on the living room floor with a soft thud. For the first time, Liza panicked. She rushed forward and shook the girl. "Oriana, get up. Don't do this right now. Your father can come any minute." She wasn't worried about the child's health. She was worried about the consequences. But fate had its own timing, because at that exact moment, the door opened again. It was Mark. He had returned home earlier than usual, that he walked in and froze, seeing his daughter unconscious on the floor and his wife standing over her. "What happened?" he demanded, rushing toward them. Liza stumbled over her words. She was acting weak all day. "I don't know. Maybe she's pretending." "Pretending," Mark snapped, scooping his daughter into his arms. "She fainted, Liza." His voice shook with anger. He carried Oriana to the couch, gently tapping her cheek until she slowly opened her eyes. "Daddy," she whispered weakly. Mark felt something break inside him. How long had she suffered like this? How many times had she needed him, and he wasn't there? "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked softly, brushing her hair aside. She nodded faintly, tried to sit up. "I'm sorry. I didn't finish the chores." Mark froze. That one sentence told him everything. He turned toward Liza. and his voice dropped to a dangerous calm. What chores? What exactly have you been making my daughter do? Liza's lips tightened. I just asked her to help. She needs discipline. Discipline, Mark repeated slowly. You call overworking a child discipline? You call starving her discipline? You call insulting her mother discipline? I heard everything, Liza. Liza's face drained of color. She stepped back. You heard? Yes, Mark said. Every word. The room fell silent. Even the air felt heavy. Liza tried to regain control. Mark, listen. She lies. She manipulates. She plays the victim. That's enough, Mark interrupted sharply. She's a child. My child. And I will not let you hurt her. Oriana watched quietly, her small heart racing. No one had defended her like this in months. She felt a warmth spreading through her chest, something she had almost forgotten. Safety. Mark stood up slowly, his eyes locked on Liza. I trusted you, he said. My daughter accepted you. She gave you a chance, and you treated her like a servant. Liza clenched her fists. So what now? You're choosing her over me. Yes, Mark said without hesitation. I will always choose her. Those words broke Liza's pride. She scoffed bitterly. So that's it? You're done with me? Mark didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned back to his daughter and held her trembling hand. Then he said firmly, You need to leave. Liza gasped. You're kicking me out. Over a brat who can't even. Mark's voice thundered through the room. She is my daughter. Silence filled the house. For the first time, Liza realized her power was gone. Her control was gone. Her manipulation was useless. Mark had finally seen the truth, and he wasn't backing down. Liza stormed out of the room in anger, slamming the door behind her. But neither Mark nor Oriana reacted. Their world, for the first time in months, finally felt safe. Mark wrapped his arms around his daughter carefully, whispering, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have protected you sooner. Oriana pressed her face into his chest, tears spilling quietly. It's okay, Daddy. You're here now. But what neither of them knew was that Liza wasn't done yet. She had been humiliated, dismissed, and she wasn't leaving quietly. A storm was coming, and the next few days would reveal secrets that would shake their lives forever. The house was quiet for the rest of the evening, but it wasn't the comforting kind of quiet. It was the quiet that comes before something breaks, the quiet that carries tension in every corner. Oriana stayed close to her father, afraid that if she blinked, Liza might appear again. Mark noticed. He noticed everything now. The way she flinched at footsteps, the way she held her breath when the hallway creaked, the way she kept looking toward the stairs as if expecting danger. And Mark promised himself he would never let her feel that fear again. He cooked dinner himself that night. For the first time in months, he sat with his daughter at the table. No chores, no commands, no scolding voices. Just soft conversation. He watched her eat slowly, as if still afraid someone would take the plate away. His heart ached. How long had she lived like this? When she excused herself early, saying she was tired, Mark tucked her into bed. She smiled faintly, something he hadn't seen in so long. It wasn't a big smile, just a soft curve of the lips. But for Mark, it felt like sunlight after a long winter. As soon as she fell asleep, the warmth disappeared from Mark's face. His jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. He walked to his study, took a deep breath, and dialed a number he never thought he'd call. Detective Harris, the voice answered. This is Mark Peterson, he said quietly. I need to talk to you. It's about my wife. The detective immediately sensed the weight in his voice and agreed to meet in person the next morning. But what Mark didn't know was that Liza was sitting in her car outside the house, watching the lights in the windows. Her anger hadn't cooled. It had transformed into bitterness, into revenge, into something far worse than cruelty. She wasn't ready to lose, not to a child, not to a man she thought she could control. The next morning, Mark got ready to leave for the police station. Before leaving, he gently kissed Oriana's forehead, whispering, I'll be back soon, sweetheart. Stay home and rest. You're safe. She nodded, trusting him with her entire heart. When Mark stepped outside, he didn't realize Liza was watching from the rearview mirror of her parked car. As soon as he drove away, she smirked. Perfect. She walked up to the house and knocked hard. Inside, Oriana jumped at the sound. Her heart raced. She knew that knock. That sharp, angry rhythm. She froze, unsure what to do. The knocking came again, louder this time. Oriana. Liza's voice echoed. Open the door. The little girl backed away slowly. She couldn't open it. She wasn't supposed to. Her father had told her she was safe inside. Safe because Liza was gone. But Liza wasn't gone. She was right there, and she was furious. After a few seconds of silence, Liza shouted, "If you don't open the door, I'll break it down." Oriana didn't know what to do. She hid behind the couch, trembling. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she covered her ears. She wished her father would come back. She wished someone would help her. Just then, the doorbell rang again, then loud banging. Liza screamed, "I know you're inside. Don't make me come in." But fate intervened in the most unexpected way. A voice called out from across the street, "Hey, what are you doing?" It was Mrs. Wilson, their elderly neighbor. She had always liked Oriana, and she knew something was wrong the moment she saw Liza pounding on the door like a maniac. Liza quickly changed her tone. "Oh, Mrs. Wilson, I'm just trying to get inside. My stepdaughter accidentally locked me out." Mrs. Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Funny, Mark told me last night that you're no longer living here." Liza froze, cornered. "Oh, that must be a misunderstanding," she stuttered, forcing a smile. But Mrs. Wilson wasn't convinced. She stepped closer to the house. "Why don't we wait for Mark to return?" Liza clenched her jaw. That was the last thing she wanted. She stepped back from the door. Her plan was ruined, for now. She walked away slowly, her eyes burning with hatred. Inside, Oriana finally peeked from behind the couch, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She didn't know exactly what happened, but she knew one thing. Someone had protected her. For the first time in a long time, someone other than her father had stood up for her. A few hours later, Mark returned home. The moment he stepped inside, Oriana ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Daddy." Liza came back. Mark froze, his heart dropped. "What? Did she hurt you?" Oriana shook her head. "I didn't open the door." Mrs. Wilson saw her and talked to her. Relief washed over him, followed by rage that he knew he needed to act fast. That afternoon, Mark met Detective Harris. He explained everything. What he heard, what he witnessed, how his daughter fainted from exhaustion. But the detective leaned forward slowly and said something that made Mark's blood run cold. "You're not the first person to complain about Liza." Mark blinked. "What do you mean?" The detective sighed. "She has a record of emotional abuse complaints. Former partners, even one former employer. Nothing ever stuck because she manipulates people. She's good at it. But with your testimony and your daughter's condition, we can finally do something." Mark felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Anger that he let this woman near his child. Relief that justice might finally be possible. He gave his statement, signed the documents, and when he returned home, he felt lighter, like he had taken a first step toward healing. That evening, he held Oriana close and said gently, "I promise you, sweetheart, nobody will hurt you again. Not now, not ever." But deep down, he knew Liza wouldn't give up easily. The look in her eyes that morning had said it all. She wasn't disappearing quietly. She was planning something. Something dangerous. Something fueled by humiliation and revenge. And very soon, that storm would arrive at their door. The days after Liza's failed attempt to intimidate Oriana were tense but quiet. Mark had taken extra precautions. Locks were checked, security cameras installed, and the little girl rarely left his side. But still, the shadow of fear lingered over their home. Oriana had learned a hard lesson. Even when you're loved, the world can still bring people who try to crush your spirit. She spent her afternoons in the small garden behind their house, the sun warming her face, but her thoughts heavy. She had started to realize that fear was only part of her story. Strength, she now understood, was the other part, and she was determined to find it. Meanwhile, Mark had begun making preparations. He had contacted the lawyer handling Liza's previous complaints and gathered documents to protect Oriana legally. Every call he made, every signature he placed, was a promise. No one would ever harm his daughter again. Oriana noticed the changes in him. Her father was no longer just a provider. He had become a shield, a guardian. And yet, Oriana still felt a gnawing anxiety. Liza's pride and anger were fierce. He knew she would not give up so easily. It happened on a stormy afternoon. The wind whipped against the windows, rattling the panes as though warning the family that trouble was near. Oriana had just finished her homework when the doorbell rang. Mark was in the study, reviewing papers, so she cautiously peeked through the window. And there she was, Liza, standing at the front door, soaked by the rain but undeterred, her eyes burning with malice. She had returned, not to beg, not to apologize, but to take revenge. Oriana's heart raced. She ran to her father, tugging at his sleeve. "Daddy, she's back. She wants to hurt me." Mark's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with the same steel he hadn't known he possessed before. "Stay here. Don't come near the door," he commanded, moving toward the entrance. Oriana watched as her father opened the door crack. Liza pushed forward, her wet hair plastered to her face, her lips curled in a mocking smile. "So, this is your precious little girl," she sneered. "The one you've been hiding from me." Mark's hand shot forward to stop her. "You're done, Liza. I've called the authorities. You cannot enter this house. You have no rights here." Liza laughed, a chilling sound that made Oriana shiver. "You think this ends with the police, Mark? You think a piece of paper will stop me? She's mine. She's always been in my way." Before Mark could react, Oriana stepped forward. Her voice, small but steady, cut through the tension. "No, she's not. I'm not hers. I'm my father's daughter, and he protects me." Liza's face twisted with fury. For a moment, it seemed as if she might push past Mark, but he was faster. With the calm of someone who had seen too much suffering to be afraid, he held the door firmly. "Leave, Liza. If you don't, the police will take you away." Oriana watched the confrontation, her chest pounding. Something inside her stirred, a mixture of fear and courage. She realized that while her father was strong, she too had grown stronger. She had survived months of abuse, humiliation, and fear. She had been pushed to her limits, but she had not broken. Liza glared at Oriana, her lips quivering. "You think you're safe because of him. But this isn't over. I will ruin you, ruin your family, ruin everything you love." Mark did not flinch. His voice was steady, his resolve unshakable. "Your threats mean nothing here. Oriana is protected. And you are nothing in this house anymore." For the first time, Liza seemed to falter. She had always relied on intimidation, on playing people against each other, on twisting truths to suit her agenda. But here, nothing worked. Her control was gone. Oriana's courage, combined with her father's protection, had dismantled the power she had once wielded effortlessly. Liza turned abruptly and left, her steps splashing in the puddles outside. The storm continued to rage, but inside the house, a new calm settled. Oriana sank to the floor, tears streaming freely, not from fear, but from relief. She looked up at her father, her voice trembling but full of gratitude. "Thank you for hearing me, for believing me, for staying." Mark knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "Oriana, you don't have to thank me. I should have seen your pain sooner. But from now on, I promise you, nothing will ever hurt you like that again. Not while I'm here." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the household began to heal. The shadows of Liza's cruelty faded, replaced by laughter, safety, and the warmth of a father who truly understood his daughter's needs. Oriana began to smile again, truly smile, without fear of judgment or ridicule. She played in the garden, painted, and even helped Mark in the kitchen, discovering small joys she had almost forgotten. Through it all, Oriana learned something essential. True strength isn't about hiding pain or pretending everything is fine. True strength is standing up, even when you're scared. It's speaking out, even when you feel small. It's trusting someone, even after being hurt. Mark, too, changed. He realized that being a parent wasn't only about providing or protecting. It was about truly seeing his child, understanding her struggles, and acting when she couldn't act for herself. The bond between father and daughter deepened, a bond forged in love, trust, and the trials they had endured together. Oriana never forgot the lessons of those months, the fear, the humiliation, the silence. But she also never forgot the victory of courage, the warmth of protection, and the healing power of love. And as for Liza, she disappeared from their lives entirely. Her threats, her malice, her attempts to control, all vanished like shadows at sunrise. Oriana had emerged stronger, braver, and filled with a confidence that no one could take away. Years later, Oriana would look back on that time and smile. Not because it was easy, but because she had survived. She had endured cruelty and humiliation, yet she had found her voice, her strength, and the unshakable love of a father who finally saw her, truly saw her, and chose her over everything else. This was a story of fear transformed into courage, of silence transformed into voice, and of a family torn apart by cruelty, yet united by love. Oriana and her father had survived the storm. Together, they had proven one undeniable truth. No one can destroy a bond forged in love and courage, no matter how dark the shadow that tries to loom over it. And in that triumph, Oriana's spirit soared, free, proud, and unbroken.